AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have a new real-time video generator that can run on a consumer GPU. We also have a real-time text-to-speech generator that's super lightweight. It can run on any CPU or even just your mobile phone. ByteDance continues to cook this week by releasing an incredible state-of-the-art AI model. We have an open-source thought-to-text AI. This can analyze your brainwaves and figure out what you're thinking. This open-source AI can generate videos that are 2K or even 4K in resolution. Alibaba releases their best model yet, Qwen 3.5. Google also drops their best model, Gemini 3.1 Pro. Plus, they also released an incredible and free music generator. This AI can turn your prompt into a full 4D scene. We have some ridiculous humanoid robot demos and a lot more, so let's jump right in. First up, Alibaba releases their most performant model yet, Qwen 3.5. This is a multimodal model that has 397 billion parameters, but when you use it, only 17 billion parameters are active, so it's quite efficient. And like the top models out there, this is especially good at reasoning, coding, agentic abilities, and multimodal understanding. The really awesome thing is this has a 1 million token context window. So this is like how much information you can fit into your prompt at once, and 1 million tokens is among the largest in the industry. You can fit like over 700,000 words or a medium-sized code base or over an hour of video into your prompt at once. And if you look at these benchmarks, it's very impressive. So it's really good at instruction following, also graduate level science questions, as well as agentic abilities, and also it's really good at document recognition and video reasoning. So like overall, it's as good as some of the top closed models out there like GPT, Claude, and Gemini. The awesome thing is because this is multimodal, it doesn't just have to work with text, but this can also take in images and video. So you can just upload an entire video and ask it questions about the video or even get it to create a PowerPoint presentation like this. Or here's an example of a racing game that it has coded up. This is actually the most impressive 3D racing game I've seen so far. Like the other models aren't able to get this level of detail. And of course, it's also great at front-end design. For example, we can get it to create a sunscreen product website, and here's the result. And of course, you can also link this to OpenClaw as the model to use. And then you can prompt it to do stuff via WhatsApp or Telegram. So here's an example of that. This is also really good at spatial awareness and understanding. So if we upload this image and we ask, is the telephone booth on the left or right side of the yellow van? This is actually a quite tricky photo because the yellow van is pointing north, so the telephone booth is actually to the right of the yellow van, even though the rest of the cars on this lane are facing south. So it has to reason a lot, but eventually it does end up with the correct answer. Or you can also upload this maze and get it to find the shortest path, and it's able to pull up Python and code up an algorithm to find the shortest path. And here's our result. A really cool thing is you can even get it to solve Sudoku puzzles, which a lot of top models aren't able to do well. So you can just upload this image of a Sudoku puzzle and then it would proceed to solve it for you. The awesome thing is they've actually open sourced this. So if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Now note that with 397 billion parameters, this is quite huge. This is 807 gigabytes in size. So you're not going to be able to run this on most consumer devices unless you have your own data farm. But that being said, this is one of the best open source models you can use right now. Even if you can't download this locally, you can also use this online for free via their Qwen chat platform. So on this model dropdown, you can select these Qwen 3.5 models. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, we have an open source Genie 3. So this is called AnchorWeave, and this can generate interactive world videos. In other words, this is a video where you can press the WASD or arrow keys and move around this 3D world. So it just takes a starting initial frame, and then you can generate a 3D world from that where you can move around. Now, currently, for one iteration, it can only generate 81 frames, which is roughly a few seconds, but you can iterate this multiple times to create a longer video. The really impressive thing is it can maintain consistency and realism over a long period of time. Here are some other examples for your reference. Notice that this is much better than previous interactive world generators in that this one actually preserves a memory of the scene. So even if you look away and then you look back, everything remains the same as before. And then here are a few other examples, and as you can see, it doesn't just have to work in a first-person view. You can also upload a third-person perspective like this, and it can also generate a third-person video of this character moving around. The key to AnchorWeave is that it uses a special technique called local geometric memories to generate the video. This means it breaks down the scene into smaller parts and uses these parts to create a consistent and realistic video that preserves the overall 3D configuration of the scene. It also uses what's called a multi-anchor weaving controller to help combine these parts coherently and generate a smooth video. Now, if you compare AnchorWeave with other 3D scene generators, notice that it's just a lot more coherent and detailed compared to the other methods. So here's one example, and then the ground truth is on the lower right. AnchorWeave is actually very similar to the ground truth. Or here's another example for your reference. The awesome thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've already released the code to this. So if you click on this GitHub repo, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Note that currently this initial model is based off of an older video generator called CogVideoX, but they're also planning to release a WAN-based example in the future as well, which should be better in quality. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is very useful. It's called TinyAIA by Cohere Labs, and like the name implies, this is quite a small and open weights model, which can help you translate stuff or respond to you in many different languages. So this is incredibly tiny. This is only like 3.35 billion parameters. So this is even small enough to run on consumer hardware or even your mobile phone. And this model knows over 70 languages. So that's the base model, and then they fine-tuned it further to create this TinyAIA global model, and this can support 67 languages. Here are the 67 languages that are supported by TinyAIA Global from 5 regions of the world. So here's a benchmark on multilingual generation quality, comparing TinyAIA with other similar sized models across languages from all these different regions, and as you can see, on average, TinyAIA performs better. This is also incredibly efficient. So in this graph, the y-axis is the generation quality, the higher the better, and then the y-axis is the number of parameters, so the smaller the better. Ideally, you want to be in this upper left corner, and as you can see, TinyAIA is over here. Now, you can try this out on Hugging Face for free right now. So it looks like this. Here are some examples for your reference. Here's an example of a Spanish prompt, and as you can see, it answers incredibly fast because this is very tiny. Or here's another example where the prompt is Arabic, and again, it's able to answer you incredibly fast. Or here's a Chinese example, and here is an example where we get it to translate a sentence from Basque to French, and it's able to do this very well. The awesome thing is this is open weights, so they've already released the model on Hugging Face, and here you can see that at least for the TinyAIA global model, this is quite tiny at only 6.7 gigabytes in size, so this can fit comfortably on most consumer GPUs. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, we have an incredibly lightweight text-to-speech generator called Kitten TTS. This is incredibly tiny. Here it says it's under 25 megabytes and it's only 15 million parameters, not even a billion parameters. So this essentially allows you to even run this on just a normal CPU or even just your mobile phone. You don't even need a GPU to run this. And it's so lightweight that you can even run this in real time with just mediocre hardware.
Kitten TTS. The super tiny and expressive open source models are back with an upgrade.
This time we're launching 3 tiny models, an 80 million, 40 million, and the smallest one with just 14 million parameters.
Our smallest model is less than 25 megabytes and can run on minimal hardware. This clip was actually produced by it.
These were built with love by a tiny team of kittens. We're working on packing frontier intelligence into tiny models.
Check it out on GitHub and connect with us on our Discord community.
In fact, they already released a free online demo on Hugging Face for you to try this out. So for example, let's try these two tricky sentences. And here we can choose from the smallest model, the medium-sized one, or the largest one. Let's just go with the default medium-sized model. And then here we can choose from a list of different voices. Notice that right now you can't clone your own voice, so you can only choose from their preset voices. And then here you can choose the speed of the generation, and that's pretty much it. So let's click on generate. And here's our result.
The record producer refused to record the band's new single. The wind was too strong to wind the kite string around the spool.
Alright, so it's not bad for a super tiny 40 million parameter model. The awesome thing is they've released all the models already. If you click on the largest one, this is only 80 megabytes in size, so even this can fit comfortably on like a CPU. Or you can even fit this just on your phone. And then the smallest one is only 25 megabytes in size. Super tiny. And then down here it contains all the instructions on how to install and run this locally. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this news is pretty insane. So this company is called Taalas, and they just unveiled this chip, which is incredibly fast and efficient. It achieves 17,000 tokens per second. If you don't know what that means, here is a chart comparing the tokens per second, or basically the output rate of this Taalas HC1 chip compared to the industry-leading chips out there. This includes Cerebras, or Grok, or even Nvidia's state-of-the-art B200, which is all the way down here. So this is like 40 times faster than Nvidia's state-of-the-art chips. And get this, not only is it faster, but it also costs 20 times less to build, and it consumes 10 times less power. So how exactly does this work? You see, an AI model is basically a neural network. This is currently made of code, and this code lives in software. For example, a transformer could live in this PyTorch code. Now, this software needs to be powered by hardware in order to run, but because of this disconnect between software and hardware, it's not as efficient. But here, what Taalas has done is they've basically hard-coded the AI model, specifically Llama 3.1, onto the chip itself. So this AI model that lives inside this chip can now respond to you in real time, as fast as the speed of thought. You don't even need to wait for the sentence to complete. And I think this would be the future of AI models. We need custom hardware that's designed specifically for these AI models so that they can be hard-coded into these chips. This design merges memory and computation together all on just one chip, which unifies the entire system. You don't need any big cooling or complicated components, and this helps cut down the costs significantly and also make it way faster. But here's the main problem I have with this. So this chip is built specifically for Llama 3.1. It's not going to work if you add DeepSeek or Qwen or another AI model onto this. So at least currently the technology is that you need to build a chip specifically for each model. But I think this is definitely going to be the future, where we have AI living directly in hardware instead of software. And this is just the beginning. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main release page in the description below. Also, this week we had Lunar New Year, so of course China hosted their annual Spring Festival Gala event. And here they showcased some insane abilities from the Unitree G1 robot. This is a huge improvement compared to last year. Here you can see some clips of the rehearsal or training of these robots, as well as the live performance. And as you can see, it's able to do some insanely acrobatic stuff. I mean, these robots are able to jump like 2 to 3 meters into the air, executing full flips or even multiple sequential flips. Some of them can even perform continuous single leg flips and also run up a wall and flip. This is crazy. This is actually really impressive because jumping and flipping requires some explosive actuator torque that pushes the absolute limits of robotic hardware. And the hardest part actually isn't even the jump, but the landing. The robot must calculate its mid-air orientation in real time and anticipate the exact moment of impact, and then instantly absorb the massive kinetic force through its leg joints to prevent, bouncing or slipping. So not only does this require explosive power, but also incredible balance. But as you can see, they've programmed the Unitree robot to do this very well. In fact, they even have one robot intentionally wobble and act like it's drunk and then falling on its back, but within a split second, it was able to spring back up like this. That was actually intentional. And then here we have some demos of multiple robots using these nunchucks, which again is actually very hard. So this fundamentally alters the robot's center of gravity and momentum with every swing. So the robot needs to constantly recalculate and recalibrate these forces to remain balanced. And then here's another demo from Unitree of the rehearsal and training process of these robots. And this is another really impressive feature. You can see right now this swarm of dozens of robots are controlled by one system. They need to rapidly move around into these tight coordinations to spell out specific shapes or characters. Controlling one robot is hard enough, but networking dozens of them requires this centralized swarm intelligence system with near zero latency. So here they're showcasing how you can now deploy not just one robot, but multiple robots in large synchronized fleets for like mass industrial or logistical operations. A pretty crazy demo. Also this week, this AI is very useful. It's called Luve, and this can generate ultra-high resolution videos. So you just need to enter a text prompt, but as you can see, this can generate some really detailed and high-quality videos. It's much better than the other top open source alternatives we have, like LTX2 and WAN 2.2. So here's an example of a bee on a flower, and this is just a 2K example. I'm also going to show you some 4K examples in a second. As you can see here, even like each strand of hair on the bee is visible. This is how detailed the video is. Or here's another example of a lionfish swimming in coral, and again, note how detailed this whole video is. Super impressive. Right now, those were just some 2K examples. Here we have some 4K examples. Look how crisp and clear everything is. You can even see the ripples of the water if you look closely. This isn't just like a fake 4K video that's actually 1080p. This does actually look like 4K. And then here's another super detailed example of this row of camels walking in the desert. Here's another example for your reference. Again, you can even make out the minute details of the waves hitting the shoreline. Very impressive. Now, if you compare this with other video generators or upscaling methods, notice that by far this new model outperforms the rest across all these different benchmarks. Now, at the top of the page, they do have some buttons for a GitHub repo and data, but these don't link to anything yet. Hopefully, they will open source this. For now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. I've been covering a ton of video generators lately. There's Kling 3 and now Seeddance. And just to let you in on a little secret, there's going to be more crazier models coming soon. If you're feeling overwhelmed from better models coming week after week, then Higgsfield, the sponsor of this video, would be a great option. It brings together the best image and video generators all in one place. You can use the best available video model, Kling 3, and of course the legendary Seeddance 2.0 will be available as soon as possible. One of my favorite things about Higgsfield is their preset templates library. You can just grab something right out of the box and start creating. Some popular ones include the skin enhancer preset, or this clothes swapper, or this relighting preset. There are also a ton of camera movement presets which you can easily use to make your generations even more cinematic. Plus they have a new Vibe motion feature which allows you to easily generate motion graphics. Simply start with a prompt and you can optionally add a reference image or a video. Higgsfield then generates a professional polished motion design right away. If you're looking for one unified platform that has all the best image and video generators so you can easily create assets without switching between sites, Higgsfield is one of the best options to use. Try it for free using the link in the description below, and stay tuned for Seeddance 2.0. They're going to be the first to release it when it comes out. Next up, this AI is pretty wacky. So it's called Zuna Thought to Text, and apparently it can scan your thoughts, or basically your brainwaves, and translate that into what you're actually thinking. Here are the specs. This is a 380 million parameter BCI foundation model for EEG data. So EEG stands for electroencephalogram, and this is basically a way to measure electrical activity of the brain using small sensors or electrodes attached to your scalp. And so this is basically an AI model that's able to analyze and translate this EEG data. Now, when you connect these electrodes to your scalp and generate these electric signals, here is what the EEG data looks like. And this data by itself, it's really hard to analyze what exactly this is. Typically, these signals can be very messy and noisy, plus the electrode layout could be different between different subjects and different places, plus you could have some channels missing. Anyways, all this data is really messy. So the point of this Zuna model is to denoise this EEG data, in other words, clean it up, and also reconstruct any missing channels, and also predict new channel signals based on current data. Now, currently, this does not directly turn EEG data into text, so it's not that good yet. It can't just magically interpret what you're thinking from this graph. The point of this currently is to clean up the data or reconstruct missing data and also add higher resolution to this data. So think of this as like the first open source foundation model for brain signals. This is just the start, and the long-term vision for this is to eventually, of course, just take this raw brainwave data and convert it into text on what the person is thinking. Anyways, the awesome thing is they've released the model weights already, so if you click on this GitHub repo, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Note that it's actually quite tiny, so the model is less than 2 gigabytes in size, so you can fit this comfortably within most consumer devices. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is super powerful. It's called AudioX, and this is a unified model that can generate audio and music from a ton of different inputs. You can input text, images, or even videos and get it to generate audio from that. So here are some examples. First of all, here are some text to audio examples, so you can easily prompt this to generate sound effects. Here is thunder and rain during a sad piano solo. Very nice. And then here are some ocean waves crashing. Now, you can add more specific details to your prompt. For example, a machine gun fires twice, followed by a period of silence, then the sound of waves and surf. Let's hear what this sounds like. And it followed this very well. Or here's another example. Fireworks burst twice, followed by a period of silence before a clock begins ticking. Very cool. Now, text to sound effects is just simple stuff. Here we also have some text to music examples. So here is a suspenseful scene in a haunted mansion. That does sound pretty scary. And then here's an uplifting ukulele tune for a travel vlog. The quality is mediocre. You can probably get away with using this for some background music. Or here is some smooth urban R&B beat with a mellow groove. Now, in text to music, that's just simple stuff. We already have some really good quality music generators out there, so that wasn't too impressive, but in addition, this can also take in video as input and generate audio from that. So here's the final generation of the video plus its generated audio stitched together. Notice that it's able to actually detect the exact time when there was a cut in the video and then generate the appropriate audio for that. Here's another tricky example. Or here's another example. Now, in addition to inputting a video, you can also input audio and get it to repair certain sections. For example, here if we have this original audio clip where the middle part is deleted, let's hear what this sounds like first. Alright, so there was some silence in the middle. Well, we can just in-paint this middle section with some brief speech followed by loud applause and cheering, and here is our result. As you can hear, it's quite seamless. You can barely tell when it's actually filling in this part. Now, similarly, instead of filling in the middle, you can also use this to extend an audio clip. So for example, here is the original audio. And then let's get it to continue this. The prompt would be action-packed orchestral music, and here's the result. Now, those were just some examples. The audio quality isn't great, to be honest, but it's really impressive how it's able to take in so many different types of inputs. This is truly a unified audio model. And if you compare this with other competitors, notice that this one by far outperforms the rest in terms of not only performance, but the amount of abilities that this has. It can do pretty much everything from text to audio, text to music, video to music, image to audio, in painting, etc., etc. The awesome thing is they've released this already. So if you click on this GitHub repo, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. This is quite a small model, so the model size is less than 6 gigabytes, so you should be able to fit this comfortably with most consumer GPUs. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is quite interesting. It's called Vec2Pix, and this is a quite unique way of editing images. So here's how it works. It would basically convert your image into vector shapes like this, and then you can edit each vector shape individually, and then from that it would reconstruct the final image like this. If you do want to really control the shape or composition of certain things in the image, then this might be a good way to do so. So here's another example where we can stretch out this mountain and set it to the exact shape that we want and regenerate the image from this vector reference. Now, this doesn't just have to change the shape of stuff. You can also select a certain element and then change the color of the vector, and it would apply the color change like this. Here's a cool example where we can convert this image into a vector and then move the rose vector somewhere else. And here's our results. So this is really good for moving or repositioning objects in a photo. The cool thing about working with vectors is you can also add additional vectors on top of your image. So for example, we can add this vector of sunglasses onto this, and then here's what we get. Or we can also remove anything from an image. For example, we can remove this toothbrush vector, and here is our result. Or you can just add any other image onto this vector render like this, and it would still work. It can seamlessly add that object into your photo. Now, given that we already have Nano Banana Pro and also Qwen Image Edit and other state-of-the-art image editors where you can just simply edit any image you want with a text prompt, I think this method might be overkill unless you really want to micro-edit something in the image to be of a certain shape or position. But if this is of interest to you, then at the top of the page, it does say the code is coming soon. Currently, this doesn't link to anything yet, but if you are interested, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is really cool. So this can generate 4D scenes, in other words, 3D videos or simulations just from a text description. So it's basically a chatbot where you can just enter a prompt and it would create an entire 3D scene which you can edit further in Blender. Here's an example. Here we have a breeze stirs through the autumn forest, gently swaying the entire tree as leaves dance in the wind. And here's our result. Here is a full 3D scene that can move over time. Or here's another example. Here's a 10-second time-lapse capturing the transition from warm pre-dawn to sunrise, followed by a midday sunlight through a green canopy, golden late afternoon light, etc., etc. And it's able to generate this 3D scene of a time-lapse very accurately. Or here's lush green forest with heavy rainstorm, and then here's a vibrant underwater scene with a translucent jellyfish, etc., etc. Pretty cool. Here's another example where we have some chopped trees burning fiercely in this dark forest. Now, of course, this can also generate indoor scenes with different actions. For example, here we have this tall ceramic cup which tips on its side, spilling water and flooding the tabletop as it flows toward the edge and drips down. Or here's another indoor example. Here we have a cozy bedroom with warm lighting. Notice that everything in the scene is 3D. You can edit any object further using some 3D editing software like Blender. Or here we have a brown glass bottle rolling slowly across the living room floor. If you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, it seems like they will release the code to this soon. And then here it contains all the instructions on how to get started. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Alright, next up, this AI is pretty crazy. What if I told you that we can now get real-time video generation on just a single RTX 5090? Well, this AI called Monarch RT does exactly that. This can generate true real-time video at 16 frames per second on just a single consumer GPU, specifically the RTX 5090. Now, I know this is still a pretty high-end GPU, but hey, at least you don't need like a data farm to run this. It's still pretty affordable. And by the way, speaking of the RTX 5090, I'm actually doing a giveaway of this, so make sure you watch to the end to learn about the full details of the giveaway. Now, if you compare this to another acceleration method called flash attention, notice that Monarch RT is almost 4 times as fast. Now, you might think that with such a fast generator, you might see some degradation in quality, but that's actually not true. So if you compare this with dense attention, which is like a video generation at full quality with the same prompt, here it says it's able to reach like 95% of the quality of this. So at the bottom is this new Monarch real-time, and as you can see, the quality is very similar. Here are some other examples for your reference. The awesome thing is at the top of the page, they've already released the code to this. So if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, Google releases their best and latest model, Gemini 3.1 Pro. Now this is just an incremental upgrade, it's just 3.1, it's not Gemini 4, but nevertheless, this is incredibly powerful, and it already tops independent leaderboards, as you can see here. Plus, the price is extremely cheap compared to other closed source competitors. And the awesome thing about Gemini is it's multimodal. Not only can it understand text, but also images, audio, and video. Now, I already did a full review video on it, so I'm not going to repeat too much here. See this video if you want to learn more. But in addition to Gemini 3 Pro, Google also released an insane music generator called Lyria 3. This is completely free to use. You can use it right now on the Gemini platform or app. So on the Gemini app, simply click on Create Music, and then here, you can just enter a prompt to describe your track, or you can even upload an image to guide the generation. So here's an example where I just uploaded this image of a barbecue and then asked it to make a song based on the image. And then it composed this. Let me play this for you.
Sun's going down, the grill is hot. Flipping burgers for the whole dang lot. Got that bluegrass blasting on the speakers loud. So raise them up, we're feeling proud. Yeah, this is what it's all about. Good friends and good times on a Friday night. Everything is feeling right. Yeah, feeling right.
Alright, so that was the song for this image. Let me know in the comments below if it fits the image. Or here's another example where I uploaded this image and then asked it to make a J-pop song about this image. And here is what I got.
Yeah, feel the wind. みんなで一緒にどこまでも Let's go. ジェコ機みたいなスピードで風を切って進め We are the winding road racers. どこまでも続く青空の下でこの瞬間は永遠 Our precious time. 輝く未来へと走り続け You and me. We are the winding road racers.
Alright, so it wasn't too bad, but there you go. Here's a high-energy J-pop example based on this image. Now this can do a ton of other styles, so for example, here is some retro synthwave.
Running through the light, catch the phantom high tonight. Oh, the neon dreams, tearing at the velvet seams, we're never coming down.
Or here are some Hindi lyrics in pop ballad style.
रात की रोशनी में ये शहर दिखता है नया सा, दिल में एक उम्मीद जागी है, सफर बस चलता जाता है.
Or here are some Spanish lyrics in funk and city pop style.
Caminando lento bajo el sol, el asfalto brilla con color. Busco en el espejo tu mirada, en esta ciudad que no para.
And then here are some other styles for your reference.
Oh, baby, it's been a long, cold winter. Walking the wind is up and the sail is set. Heave away, haul away, the finest crew.
City lights are bleeding through the rain. We're dancing in the memories left behind.
Never set out. This is the sound of the floor giving way.
Here are some other examples of songs generated from different images.
Ocean air through the window pane. Salt on your skin in the sun. Everything's feeling fine. Yeah, everything is feeling fine. Everything.
Now, like I said, this should already be available on the Gemini platform or app. You should see a button down here to create music. Anyways, if you're interested in checking this out, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. Now, last week, ByteDance releases a monster of a video generator called Seedance 2.0. This is by far the best video generator out there. It's not even close. But this week, they've continued to cook by releasing another state-of-the-art model called Seed 2. This is a large language model, so just like the top models out there, this is especially good in terms of multimodal understanding, reasoning, and agentic capabilities. Here are some benchmarks for your reference, comparing Seed 2 Pro on the far left with the top models out there, including Claude, GPT 5.2, and Gemini 3. Here are some benchmarks on visual reasoning, and as you can see, Seed 2 actually outperforms the other closed models in most cases. And then same with motion and perception. For instruction following, it's not as good, it's like on par, and then same with real-world tasks. Now, because this is so good at visual understanding, we can upload this image and get Python to plot this out and make it as similar as possible. So afterwards, it undergoes some deep thinking, and then here is the final result. It looks very similar to the uploaded image. Or here, we're basically getting Seed 2.0 to autonomously click and do stuff on a computer. So here we're getting it to operate this FreeCAD platform to edit and manipulate 3D objects. And as you can see, it's actually doing all of this autonomously step by step. And as you can see here, it has done like almost 100 steps sequentially. So this is really good for like long horizon tasks. Now, I've been scanning some independent leaderboards to see if they've added Seed 2.0 yet, and at least for LM Arena, they have. So in terms of text, Seed 2.0 ranks number 5. And then for vision, which Seed 2.0 is especially good at, this ranks number 4, still behind Gemini 3 and 3.1. Now, currently, you can only use this via this Volcano Engine API, but if you're interested in checking this out further, I'll link to it in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And if you've made it to here, I've got a treat for you. I'm partnering with Nvidia to give away an RTX 5090 GPU around their GTC 2026 event. With this, you can easily run AI tools locally on your computer. Here's how to enter. Simply click the link in the description to register and attend at least one GTC 2026 session, which will be on March 16th to 19th. You can attend virtually or in person. Here are some of my favorites. Jensen Huang's keynote is an obvious one, but this one on humanoid robots at scale, as well as this one on open world models, are also on my watch list. Again, make sure you sign up for GTC using the link in the description below, and then afterwards fill out the form and you're good to go. It's totally free to enter.